Martin Luther and the Reformation. In the 1500s, there was only one Christian church in Western Europe, and that was the Catholic Church. Its leader was the Pope, and he was a really powerful man with great wealth and even his own army. He was based in Rome. But not everybody was happy with how the Catholic Church was being run. Soon there would be major protests, which would lead to the church being split in two. Martin Luther, not to be confused with Martin Luther King, was born in Germany in the 1500s. He was studying to be a lawyer, but one day he got caught in a thunderstorm, and he promised God that if he survived the thunderstorm, he would become a monk. And he did survive, so he became a monk. Luther was a really well-educated man, and at the time, the Bible that the church used was all in Latin. And he started to compare the Latin to the original Greek and Hebrew that the Bible was originally written in, and he found that certain parts were incorrectly translated. Luther began to protest that the church needed reforming, and so began the Protestant Reformation. Luther hung his list of 95 complaints on the local church door in Wittenberg in 1517. So, what problems did Martin Luther have with the Catholic Church? One of the problems was that the church was too rich. It owned a third of all the land in England. It took 10% of everyone's harvest every year as well. Another problem was that priests weren't leading holy lives. Some priests had more than one job, so they didn't look after their churches very well. Some priests also had affairs, which definitely was not allowed. Luther also didn't like the fact that the Bible and church services were all in Latin. It was a problem because people couldn't actually understand the language, so they didn't know what was going on. Another problem with the Catholic Church was that Pope Leo V sent a man called John Tetzel to Wittenberg in Germany to sell indulgences. Indulgences were basically a ticket to heaven. Rich people could buy them, so it just meant that rich people could go to heaven quicker than poor peasants. That wasn't fair. So Leo V was selling these indulgences so that he could pay for the building of St. Peter's Basilica in Rome. Luther was absolutely furious. The church being too rich, priests not living holy lives, the Latin language and indulgences are just 4 out of the 95 points that were nailed to the church door. So what did Martin Luther believe then? Martin Luther said that faith in God is what saves people. It wasn't about the good work that people did. Luther also believed that the ultimate authority was the Bible. It wasn't the Pope. Another thing that Martin Luther believed was that nobody is more important in God's eyes. Everybody is equal. The Catholic Church, though, had a hierarchy where the Pope was seen as the most important, and Luther didn't like this. So what happened next? Well, the Pope ordered Luther to give up his beliefs, but Luther refused to do that. So the Pope had no other choice but to excommunicate Luther. That meant that Luther was kicked out of the church and no one was allowed to talk to him or help him. So Luther went into hiding and he translated the Bible into German. And the belief just kept on spreading. And today we have lots of different churches that were born out of that movement. For example, Baptist churches, Reformed churches, Methodist churches, all come from Luther's ideas.